So, I found out something pretty interesting yesterday. And I didn't notice this before, and I've come to realize that I actually haven't dealt with basically the first section of chapter 40 at the beginning of my page. So that information should really be toward the top, so I'm going to have to fill in that area. And I'm also, for those of you that have been in the loop on this, I'm also writing an abstract for every section to make it a little easier to digest for people and for myself as well. So there's one thing that she says. Man, I can't remember which section it's in right now. This is going off the top of my head. She says, she quotes Revelation 22, 18 through 19. It's in a paragraph that, it's like for longer quotes where it's, indented on the sides and set apart. And then after that, she says that both Vaticanus and Siniaticus violate this command. The warnings about adding to or taking from the things that are said in Revelation, and probably by extension the entire Bible. She says that Vaticanus violates the passage by, and these are her words, completely eliminating the book of Revelation, this horrible evil manuscript. And then, of course, she charges Siniaticus with adding the Epistle of Barnabas and the Shepherd of Hermas to it. Couple of things to consider. I'll get to Vaticanus next. I'll talk about Siniaticus first. I don't know other manuscripts that have done this, but I have read and I have heard that it was common practice for, in expensive bound volumes of scripture, to include other popular and helpful Christian works at the end. So Siniaticus, for example, has all the books, has Revelation. To my understanding, it has all the same books as the King James Bible, plus the Apocrypha in the Old Testament. And with Revelation, it has Revelation, but then it adds the Shepherd of Hermas and the Epistle of Barnabas at the end because they were very popular Christian works. The Epistle of Barnabas actually shaped a lot of how we view the Bible today. If you've ever heard somebody say, the world will last 6,000 years because the Bible says that the days with the Lord is 1,000 years and 1,000 years is one day, that is from the Epistle of Barnabas. A lot of symbolic things with the temple rituals and the sacrificial rituals of the Jews. Those were pointed to in the Old Testament, and they were pointing to the Messiah, messianic prophecy, basically, in the symbols and the types that they portray. And Barnabas breaks all that down, and that's where part of allegorical interpretation came from, but not taking the historical stuff and saying that's an allegory. So that's separate, to my understanding. I'm looking forward to doing more research into that whole thing. And then the Shepherd of Hermas has a lot of different things in it that are also foundational to even Christianity now. It teaches a pre-tribulation rapture. It teaches that God created everything out of nothing in Genesis, which is something that was not a common belief back then. It's got a lot of things in it that actually my phone is trying so hard. Please stay. Come on, internet, you can do this. It looks like it might hold for right now. That would be great. So people would have to sacrifice so much time to create a manuscript that somebody could afford a codex. And people have figured that the accepted age of Codex Siniaticus back in the, 400s, 4th century, I believe, AD. At that point in time, if it was produced then, which I personally think that it was produced a few hundred. Hey, I guess I'm kind of, yeah, the internet should be good from here. So, thank you to the people that are still here and waiting. Hopefully I get some light back. There we go. So it would cost for somebody in the 4th century, if they wanted a copy like Siniaticus, on vellum, which is going to last a very long time, much longer than a Bible paper today, ink that would last much longer as well. It would cost about $8,000 to get a copy of Siniaticus made for you in the 4th century. So it makes a lot of sense that you would want to have a couple of extra books at the end, like maybe today, if we were getting something, maybe I don't know, John Bunyan, Pilgrim's Progress, maybe something like that would be good. It actually bears a very close resemblance to things written in the Shepherd of Hermas. Come to find out, is that going to be enough light? It's still kind of dark. That's all that's really coming to mind right now. But you would want to have something else if you're going to be getting an $8,000 volume made for you. You're going to want to have a couple of things in there to, kind of, make it, add a couple of things that are practical, especially for a Christian. At that point in time, I believe Hermas and Barnabas were also considered to be scripture by a few people. Some people ended up not considering Hermas canonical. Very similar debates, as I understand it, to ones regarding Revelation. But anyways, all that stuff. Because, they both have, giant monsters on them. So things like that, and very vision based. So I personally think that Revelation inspired Hermas to write the Shepherd of Hermas, but I don't think, I personally do not think that Hermas actually had these visions. That's just my personal opinion. So here's where things get a little bit stupid. As soon as you say Gail Riplinger, people either check out, or they're like, oh, how dare you touch, I just have to tell you the truth about what she said. So I believe it was page 614, if I'm not mistaken. I may be wrong. But in chapter 40, and that would be of the 2021 edition, in chapter 40 of the Final Bible, Gale says that Vaticanus completely eliminates Revelation, violating the command to not take away from these things. There's a little problem with that. Especially out in his books. I just forgot about it until yesterday, and I was just like, oh man. You know what, Gale? Vaticanus ends because of damage to the manuscript at Hebrews 9:14a. That is absolutely incredible. Gale has misled her readers for 30 years on so many points, and this is one of them. She acts as if Vaticanus is the worstest, most evilest manuscript ever because it doesn't have the book of Revelation in it, when, to my understanding, the majority of Greek manuscripts do not even include Revelation. Revelation was very disputed, especially in the area where we get our majority text from. So it is not surprising that most manuscripts do not have the book of Revelation in it, or in them. So if Vaticanus simply has damage to the end of the manuscript, and then Gale wants to pretend that Vaticanus completely eliminates Revelation, that is sickeningly misleading. Oh yeah, and something else I found out. Vaticanus does have Revelation in it. It was added back in the 15th century in a minuscule hand, which is how your majority text is written. I would love to see the text of Revelation. I would love to be able to read Greek, honestly, and be able to see what kind of text Revelation has. Revelation doesn't follow the typical breakdown that you might have of, like, this is Byzantine, this is Alexandrian. So it would just be fascinating to be able to see what kinds of variations there are in Vaticanus. So yeah, I guess this is kind of where Gale's quotation is kind of twofold: the child of hell than yourselves, because first of all, it says that Vaticanus eliminates it, which it does not. It is just missing everything after Hebrews 9:14, and it in fact does today. It does have Revelation in it, because somebody added the rest of Hebrews and the text of Revelation to the end of it in the 1500s. So yeah, pretty stinking ridiculous. I have been honored to be able to be part of, and I have mentioned this publicly, and Angela knows that I mentioned it. I am happy to be part of bringing her book into existence and offer my contributions to it as well. I hope to be able to make a free ebook for you guys at some point soon, which will probably be based off of what ends up going into her book from me. And in case you guys are interested, this is still in the idea phase. I don't have anything really planned yet. But I'm hoping very soon begin work on a course for the Bible version conspiracy. I'm not quite sure what it's going to be about yet, so if you have anything that you think we should make a course about, please let me know. Something that you would be interested in learning more about. And yeah, that'd be awesome. So I pulled over here for just a second because I want to look at your comments. This is something that I haven't been able to do for a long time, and I need to get back to this whole podcasting thing. I'm finding myself messaging people and leaving them like 4 10-minute long audio clips, and I've got to get back into the swing of this. So let me take some of your guys' comments. I'm going to see what you guys have. We've got a hi from Barbara and a wave, and are you going to talk about God today? And yeah, we talked about things that are related to God. This isn't really a Bible study channel. God bless you, sir. All the best for you. Amen. Do you have PC? Not sure what that means. Personal computer, pure Cambridge edition. I'm not sure. Yes, bless you, sir. I didn't sneeze, I don't believe. Hello, I am from Brazil. That is from Ryan. Imagine getting called egg by Miyawski. That's an interesting handle. Finally, someone who actually go out of home and see the real world. Okay, well, that was a little bit more of a pressing thing during COVID. I used to be KJV only. This is from Sigi. I used to be KJV only. I wanted it to be true so bad, but eventually I had to be honest with myself. That is the problem. Because when you have to be honest with yourself with King James onlyism, you just have to be honest to yourself. You can't deceive yourself into this. But Gail did. She deceived herself into it. She ended up deceiving a lot of people into it. And here's something too, if you're King James only and you're watching this, and I would encourage you to look into this further. There's at least one place where the King James Bible doesn't represent the majority, it doesn't represent a minority, it doesn't represent anything. It actually represents a 7th century commentary. This is something that I've talked about a little bit, not publicly yet. We'll be getting more into it at some point. This is just, off the top. This is the cream that has risen to the top. Revelation 21:24 says, it talks about the people that are going into the New Jerusalem. And it says that the nations of them which are saved shall walk by the light of it. And this is in the King James Bible. This is in the Textus Receptus. Of them which are saved. Problem is that Erasmus had a manuscript for Revelation that had a commentary by Andrew of Caesarea interspersed in the text. If I'm not mistaken, the exact manuscript that he most likely used has the text of this commentary in the margin, but except in this one verse, where there's 2 Greek words accidentally left in. They're basically of them which are saved. In English, that's 5 different words. In Greek, it's only 2. I'm not sure exactly what those words are because I don't speak Greek, I speak English. But these 2 words are not in any manuscript anywhere except for in manuscripts that have been influenced by the commentary of Andrew of Caesarea. So if you're King James only and you want to say that, John 5:4 and 1 John 5:7 and Acts 8:37, the last 12 verses of Mark, Romans 16:24, all these different verses are all legitimate. Okay. But the problem is that you're arguing for these verses based on a set of standards that you can't apply here. Revelation 21:24 did not read of them which are saved until Andrew of Caesarea wrote a commentary and it accidentally made its way into the text because apparently Erasmus, or the person making the manuscript Erasmus used, made a mistake. Of them which are saved was added to Revelation by accident, not intentionally. It doesn't change the meaning of the passage. It's not a doctrinal thing. The nations at that point, they're all saved anyways. It's just that Andrew decided to insert those couple of words to clarify this. There are other manuscripts which put his commentary in the margin, and there goes that comment right into the margin where it belongs. You look up a modern edition of Andrew of Caesarea's commentary, written around 611, 1,000 years before the King James Bible. This manuscript, or this commentary, you look up modern editions of it, translated into English, and you'll find his commentary in the footnotes, and it'll say, of them which are saved. So if you're King James only, you can say, at least for now, that all the textual variants that the King James Bible translators chose, which they didn't really choose them, they chose among like 4 printed editions of the TR. They didn't bake manuscripts or anything. They didn't really consult manuscripts either. They mostly relied on the Latin and a few editions of the Textus Receptus, Stephanus Beza, the one of Erasmus, all those different ones. So if you think that they found some manuscript that had that reading in it and they put it in there because they were the best scholars ever, you're living in a fantasy. That's not what happened. They worked from printed editions and other translations. So you can say with confidence at this point that the King James Bible gets all the textual variants right, but Revelation 21:24 is not technically a textual variant. It was words that were accidentally added into the text of Revelation. Pretty crazy. And this is the only one that I am aware of where this actually happened, where we don't have manuscripts to choose between. We're not looking at minority versus majority readings, blah, 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 like people will go on online all day long about. This is a situation that is different, where we have a not actual textual variant that just, it's in the text now. And if you're King James only, guess what you insist? You insist that those words are inspired. You are for adding 5 English words and 2 Greek words to the text of Revelation if you are King James only. And I've talked to people that are very well researched on this, and they will say that I'm wrong and that I'm blowing smoke on this and I'm just following James White and all this other stuff. Because James White did mention this in his recent debate with Doug Levesque. But the problem is that they can't deal with the information. They can't deal with the facts. They don't look at the manuscripts. They don't look into these things for themselves. Most of these people have asked me to write something up so that they could critique it and poke holes in it and stuff like this. And I'm just like, dude, deal with what I'm saying right now. And one guy in particular, Nick Sayers, has actually told me publicly that I am dead wrong on this, but he hasn't given any information to say how I'm wrong. He didn't give any publicly. I've talked to him several times since then, asking him for the information that shows that I am wrong. He has refused to give it to me. He has not looked into this for himself, and I think it's very sad. In fact, the only thing that he has on his website is something that was published by Will Kinney, where he basically cites Textus Receptus Bibles as evidence for this reading being in the Bible. And it's like, and all the Vatican versions omit it. It's just like, dude, no Bible had this in it anytime, anywhere, until Erasmus accidentally put it in the Textus Receptus, and now it's just in here. And like James White has said, the reason why that error stayed in there is because Erasmus did a horrible job on Revelation. He asked for, I believe it was his editor or his printer, to go with the, I believe it was the Elsevier brothers, their text. Maybe it was a different one, I forget. But he was like, hey, fix my text based on theirs. But he didn't know that they had used his text, so there were no corrections to be made based on theirs. So the errors have persisted in Revelation. Even the last 6 verses of Revelation, a lot of that is back translated from the Latin Vulgate and has readings in it that no Greek manuscript has ever said. But that's just because Erasmus had to do what he had to do. Not faulting him. Of course, the King James translators did something similar. I believe it's in the Prophets. The Hebrew text says soul, like I think it's basically being fished or caught in a net or something like this. The Hebrew says soul, if I remember this correctly. The Hebrew says soul, the Latin Vulgate says fish, and the King James translators say fish, because they followed the Latin Vulgate in that reading. The same thing with Isaiah 14:12. And we've talked for hours about Lucifer. We're still developing that extremely long page on that. And stay tuned. I've actually kind of thought that I might make the course about Lucifer. I'm not sure. But that's an interesting, fascinating study of Isaiah 14:12, how it's been used. The fact that Manly P. Hall and Albert Pike and all these people actually didn't even think Lucifer was Satan. There's a lot to be said, a lot to be learned on that one. But anyways, I've gotten off on the whole Revelation 21-24 thing. Let me get back to the comments. Gail Ripplinger is adorable, cute as a button, but she is wrong about a lot of things. Yes, she is. And James White was not exaggerating when he said that there are more errors in her book per page than any book he's ever seen in his life. That's interesting. I'll look more into that. Thanks for pointing that out. You're welcome, Siggy, I think is the pronunciation. Wow, yeah, crazy indeed. Oh, yes, it is. I've been going for 37 minutes. I should cut off now. I should continue back home. It's getting late. I appreciate you guys. Actually, you know what? I'm just not going to read comments right now. I'm going to keep blithering. How about that? Does that sound good? Because I do still have to go get milk, and somehow this cowpoke has to stay awake. And I have found that talking is the best way to stay awake. And I'm going to be driving through fog and nasty. So, anyways, let's see. Oh, what else could I talk about? See, we mentioned a little bit of the Lucifer stuff. And we mentioned Revelation 21:24. And man, it is foggy, isn't it? The Hermas and Barnabas stuff. There's not a lot else that I'm focusing on right at this point as far as the channel goes. Let's see. One side of it, I've defended the last 12 verses of Mark several times online, and listened to the debate between Mark Riddle and James White on that one. The majority of manuscripts having it, like Phil Stringer always emphasizes, that's really not, it's not the case. And this is really sad. Phil Stringer I think he's kind of ignoring me at this point. I don't think he wants to hear from me anymore, because I started sending him voice clips responding to some of the things he was saying in one of his sermons. And one of the things was that he's pretending that he's standing for the majority text when he's not. He's standing for the King James Bible and promoting the majority text along with it, because 1 John 5:7 isn't in the majority text. It's a minority text. He doesn't mention that in this speech that he gives. The other places like Revelation, the one that I mentioned earlier in Revelation 21, not even a minority reading. And he would still defend that tooth and nail. But he's like talking about, this not Roman Catholic, this Eastern Orthodox priest, and he was from Texas, and I expected him to be having like a really heavy accent, and you get this really good picture from his description. He's like, he's like this big old cowboy, and he stands up there, and he points his big old finger in Dan Wallace's face, and says, "You're a fool, and why don't you go with the majority text? Every schoolboy knows to go with the majority." It's like, okay, Phil, are you going to do that? I didn't give him that kind of attitude, but it's just like, Phil, if you want to stick with the majority text, why aren't you a Byzantine priority? Why aren't you like Dwayne Green? Why aren't you going for the majority text type? How come you're defending the King James Bible as being perfect when it has many non-majority readings in it? But you don't talk about them when you're singing the praises of the majority text, because you're pretending that it backs it up, like Kent Hovind does. Kent Hovind does exactly the same thing. He says that in his one presentation where he's got a globe on the table and stuff, and a big old femur behind him on the wall, he's like, yeah, they got all the manuscripts together back then. Yep, they found 5,000 of them. Yep, this was back in Erasmus's day, and they got all the manuscripts together, and there was no differences whatsoever. It was miraculous. Yep. Oh, only the differences of like spelling of names and stuff like Pedro and Peter and all this other. It's like nonsense, Kent. And by the way, I used to take Kent Hovind seriously. I used to promote his work on the translation issue. Nope. Not no more. There are some very serious problems with his arguments. Basically, all of that is untrue, and his mindset of King James onlyism has required him to build up this idea that he has gotten from people like Gail Ripplinger, thinking that everything is squeaky clean, and then those dirty old Alexandrian manuscripts made the NIV. It's absolutely not that cut and dry. But anyways, I hope to, at some point soon, make a couple of podcasts where I respond to Kent Hovind. Thing that he got right, because I want this to be positive. I don't want to be ripping on him all the time. I don't really have a lot of respect for him because of a lot of things that have come out about him, especially from his ex-wives. And we'll see how long his, what is this now? His fourth wife. We'll see how long his fourth wife laughs. We'll see how long she laughs. We'll see how long she lasts. But yeah, I wanna try to make it as positive as I can when I can. Be like, you know, these are all the things that Ken Hovind got right, but it's going to be a very few things in the whole King James only discussion. He gets so little right. It's honestly sad that he's going around promoting all this stuff. People are believing him. People are trusting him. And of course, he's the legs and feet of Gail Riplinger these days, because as far as I'm aware, he's the only person on earth that promotes her in a serious way. It's just how it is. I used to promote her in a serious way, but yeah, after looking into her claims, nope, I can't do it anymore. Can't do it anymore at all. And it has nothing to do with bitterness toward her. About, you know, and she claims that just because the audiobook project didn't pan out, that's why I'm all bitter and everything. That's not the case. It's because I feel like I was lied to and taken for an absolute idiot. And I trusted her for 15 years until I started investigating for myself. So yeah, it's a sad situation with them. It's a sad situation with people that swallowed everything that they were laying out. There's a lot of damage to be corrected. There's a lot of conspiracies to be put to bed, and there's a lot of legitimate conspiracies that need to be talked about, which is why we've called our channel the Bible Version Conspiracy. So, give a few little honks as I'm going by the house to let her know that I'll be back soon. I think I'm going to look at your guys' comments here in a second once I get to the milk place. I appreciate you guys sticking around for this. Like I mentioned before, this is the first time that I've actually gotten online for any length of time since the C-section, the postpartum, the move, everything. It's been crazy, and it literally feels like I'm crawling up out of a cave and going like, "Hi, I'm still here." So, yeah, it's fun. But yeah, we're working on a lot more of the business end of the Bible Version Conspiracy in order to go further and really give this idea the treatment that it needs. I need to not be working 2 jobs to just try to scrape by, and yeah. So in case you're wondering, you can support us for free. You can go to our website, BibleVersionConspiracy.com. That's all one word, Bible Version Conspiracy. And you can click on Join Our Mission. I believe if you type it all in, it'll be BibleVersionConspiracy.com/Our Mission. And you will see all the ways that you can help make this channel a reality, help us afford the subscriptions that we need for software, help us afford lighting, which we need, all sorts of things that need to be kept up. And I'm sorry to admit it, I've got 5 kids, but that's not the sad thing. The sad thing is that they are all hardcore addicts. So please keep us in prayer. They are all thoroughly addicted to eating. And that's something that they do every day. I can't get them to stop. So if you want to help us out, especially if you want to help us out on a monthly basis, the only membership platform that we have right now is buymeacoffee.com. I think we also have a Patreon. So if you look us up on Patreon, I believe it's also under Joseph Armstrong. It'll have the Bible Version Conspiracy logo on it. But yeah, it's $7 a month through Buy Me a Coffee. I want to make a lower tier. I'm thinking $3 or maybe $2 a month for people that just want to, that want to help but can't really commit. But all the perks will remain in the which is the $7 tier. And we have an awesome group of people that have been supporting us for a very long time in this whole project. We are blessed to have them. They've been more than generous. They've been more than generous with their time. They've sat up with us late at night streaming and then going into an after stream into the hours into the AM, and they're a fantastic group of people. So yeah, we deeply appreciate them, and I appreciate you guys for tuning in, for watching this long, for being here, for doing what you do, for giving us feedback. And yeah, there's so much more to be said. I'm looking forward to saying it. I'm looking forward to continue to use as much spare time as I can, outside of, spending time with the family and doing all the necessities there, and extra, staying up late, getting up early, doing what I can to make our page what our page needs to be. And I'm hoping that I didn't miss my turn. I'm pretty sure it's coming up here in a sec. But yeah, if you want to help us, make one step further toward going part-time at my currently full-time job, or right now, really, if I'm going to have any time at all, I do have to find a second job to kind of supplement what we're doing right now. Be praying for us with that, because I've applied a lot of places, and it's rough trying to find a job, even a part-time job, to try to supplement your income. So yeah, if you wanna keep us going with this and not having to work every waking hour of my life, please consider hooking up with us and becoming a member, and helping us push back against King James only rhetoric that is deceitful, back against modern version deceitful, get to the bottom, cause such damage to so many missionaries and ministries, and just it's amazing to really try to take in how much damage it really has done. It's done damage to my own life, and just trying to warn people about it and trying to keep people from being King James only is really actually pretty important. And one of the ways that people do it is by going after people with the conspiracy end of things, which is kind of my forte. And the problem is that people don't dig in to the conspiracy stuff. They ignore it, or they laugh at it. And there's so many people that feel ostracized that way, and they can't talk to people about the conspiracy stuff unless they already believe in some other conspiracy stuff, and then maybe they'd be accepting of it. But as far as the conspiracy end of things, there's no real voices in this space that is saying anything but be King James only. So most people are either dealing with the manuscript evidence and the textual stuff, and readability issues, and different things like this. But there's nobody there for the conspiracy people. And I look forward to at least being one of, hopefully, many in the future, people that are able to discuss this in a conspiracy conscious community, and hopefully be able to dispel a lot of the fears and a lot of the straight up and I mean, they're conspiracy theories, but really they're conspiracy manipulation tactics. And they rely on this conspiracy because there's no real way to defend the rumors and the lies and the misconceptions without the conspiracy. So, if you want to help us be able to push back against that and help people and hopefully transform people's lives, please consider subscribing or at least going to our support page and seeing the different ways that you can support us today for free. Most of the things are only a couple of clicks, and then you're supporting us for free. You're supporting us monetarily for free at no cost to you. The page explains all that. BibleVersionConspiracy.com/join our mission. I'm going to look at the comments real quick. I'm going to go get some milk, and we're going to get out of here. Let's see. Cool, whatever you feel like talking about, I'm along for the ride. Literally. I lean more toward majority text. At least that's where I am right now. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. And George says hi. And Siggy says LOL. Alright. I appreciate you guys being around, watching us and all that. This video will disappear until I put it back public again, and I'll put a link to our website down in the description so you guys can check that out a little easier. So yeah, I'm sorry for the skippiness or the breaking up part of things. If there was something that got left hanging, that cut out, or that you missed, please leave it in the comments. Reach out to us directly through our website or on Messenger, Facebook Messenger. You can do that as well. And yeah, just get a hold of me and be like, hey, you didn't explain a lot about this, or I missed part of that, you cut out here. And yeah, we can help explain whatever you guys need to be explained. I appreciate you. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time, hopefully sometime this fall, when we have all our little duckies lined up on the edge of the tub once more. Have a good one. And don't forget to read your Bible like the devil's after it, because he is. And there truly is a Bible version conspiracy. Have a good one.